Hello, welcome to another episode of the CFO Podcast. Hello, welcome to another episode of the CFO Podcast, a podcast where we discuss finance stories with the people who actually live it. And today I'm joined with the beautiful Mrs. Josephine Umudjoro. She's built a remarkable career in audit, assurance, and internal control. A chartered accountant with over 2 decades of practice, helping organizations strengthen governance, manage risk, and drive financial discipline. We'll talk about leadership, legacy, and what it means to stay relevant in a constantly changing environment. Ms. Josephine, welcome to CFO Podcast. It's so good to have you.
It's my pleasure.
She's so beautiful, actually. She's blushing. But anyway, so let's get right into it. You've done finance for over a decade. So how did you find finance, or did it find you?
Well, I think I found finance, So right from my secondary school days, as a matter of fact, I didn't actually want to read. I didn't even know what accounting was, because it wasn't even one of our subjects, So I was to read pharmacy, but along the line, I found myself...
From pharmacy to finances?
Yeah, because I was a science student, so I just find myself... I don't want to go into that detail. I just find myself reading accounting, And before I actually gained admission, I'd had this mindset that, accounting, I will actually protect, I will actually preserve my employer's fund. So that was the mindset I had when I was going to school.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm sorry, I have to take you back. So how did you even at all go into pharmacy before you moved into commercial?
No, I didn't. Let me just say a bit of the story.
Okay.
If for people that are, know what chemistry is, there is this endpoint, in practical. So I guess our chemistry teacher actually gave us a wrong endpoint. So, and that made most of us, because I was very good in chemistry, and that made most of us, only to escape that made most of us had F in that course.
Wow.
So, and I didn't want to keep struggling. I just said, okay, no. Let me look at the brochure and see the course that I can actually fit into. And that is how I stumbled into accounting. I said, well, I can still do this.
I'm so interested in that story, because pharmacy to accounting is easy, but we'll have that story for another day. So was finance, I mean, you already said you stumbled on it. So when you look back, do you remember the moment that you first, when you, like you said, you made the shift from pharmacy to finance, right? At what point did it hit you that, okay, this is exactly what I want to do?
Well, I would say that was in my service year, because I served in a bureau, stock accounts department. In bureaus, we had different accounts department, up to like 4. So I was in stock accounts department. And you know what that means, this issue of journal, I actually knew about journal, posting of journals, do this, do that. So I knew that, this is actually my line. Maybe it's God's direction anyway. Yeah. So I think from that point, I knew I was on the right track.
Wow, your story is quite interesting.
Really?
I think I would come and sit down with you just outside of this. So if you could give your younger self, or if your younger self could see the woman you've become today, what do you think you'd be proud of the most?
Beautiful one. I think my younger self will be proud of my integrity, because I had always uphold my integrity. I may not be rich. I'm not rich anyway, but I hold integrity dear to my heart, So my younger self will really be proud of my integrity. Then the energy, the vibes, I'm this kind of person that has that energy. People do ask me, do you actually take something? So I had that energy. So my younger self will be proud of that, and very, very innovative. You can just give me one accounting issues, and I think within a moment I'll come up with something. So my younger self will be proud of that.
That's very interesting. I think talking about your younger self, if my younger self could see me now, it would probably say, well, I actually chased my dream because at some point I wanted to study accounting. But let me not go to it. Let me not go to it. So now let's talk about your journey. It has evolved from just being an accountant. You've also been a leader. So what has that journey been like for you?
Wow, it has not actually been easy, as a matter of fact, because I remembered when the major challenge I had was I didn't actually have people to tutor me, So in most cases, I find myself just like as the head or initially the only person in the department. Like the first basic job I got, the accountant then just got a visa lottery. I was just leaving as I was stepping in. So he didn't even have time to put me through so I had the challenge to struggle, to read, to borrow people's brain, So, and what actually assisted me then was the external auditor I worked with. So he tutored me. If I prepared the financial statement, he would say, go back, do this. So I had to struggle. And at the end of the day, I also give credit to ICANN, Institute of Chartered Accountants, So when I started the exams, attending the lecture alone changed my story. So I could get to know most things that I didn't even know. So ICANN is another thing that actually pushed me to where I am today. So it actually helped my journey.
That's good. So people often say that finance leadership is a lonely one. But how does it feel to be, or how do you handle the pressure when you're the one saying no, when everybody is saying yes? So how do you handle, when you're in such position, how do you handle such pressure?
I just try to be as much as possible, remain calm. I try to calm the situation. I remember when I joined, let's say this is my current company.
Yeah.
There was an assignment, an investigation I was doing, and my MD was pressurizing me. I needed to come up with the report, and I told him, sir, I had to write so long a letter, trying to convince him why he should be patient with me, because one need to get it right, because for you to append your signature, you must get it right. So at times, you just have to make people to understand, see your point of view. They may not actually understand that, but try as much as you can to make them understand that, well, for you to be able to roll out reports, you need to get it right. I always try to convince people to be on my side.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much for that. So was there any point, you mentioned integrity is something that is very big for you. Was there at any point in time where your integrity was tested?
Integrity. Well, I would say, let me give a scenario too.
Yeah.
When I joined, I don't know, I can mention the name of the company, or when I joined one of my former companies, organization, as a young accountant then, I discovered that the check, now it's not that you can be anywhere and do transfer. So the check booklets, they were both in US. So whenever any of them is traveling back, the check booklet will be kept with our accounts officer in the bank. Okay. So I didn't actually knew what was going on, but I thought that is just their process. Fine, I was okay with that. When we have any expense, we roll out our budget and to be approved. So along the line, to cut the story short, I was now handed over the signed check, so, and which means the what they were expecting, the person they thought I was not actually the person I was. Yeah, so, and one of them said, oh, congratulations, you just passed the test, that they actually was testing you. And that anytime I withdraw money, because then it can also be a cashier, anytime I withdraw money for my MD, that he do count. I said, no, my MD don't count money. They said they actually do, that when you leave, then they will count. So they now found out, okay, from their previous experience, that you're not that kind of person. So by so doing, I would say that though I was tested, I skate through it.
Wow. That's not a test, that's an exam. Because I mean,
really?
you're just someone you're someone of integrity, maybe from background or something. Someone else would have.
Yeah, that was what they had with the previous accountant. She didn't know that the MD was counting. She thought that the MD was a count. So I was not told the story.
First time when she did it,
So she will see the MD put the money in the drawer. So she thought that, oh, my MD is not counting. Wow. So after some time, she started taking from it. So.
Wow. I mean, I'm happy that you passed the test or exam or whatever. That's a very insightful one. So if you could change one conception people have about finance managers, what would it be?
There is this, you said conception, I would say misconception.
Yes, misconception.
There is this misconception people do have. Maybe you also will have that. There is this misconception that, accountants, finance leaders, they are just number crunchers. They are just focusing on budgets, every time budget, costing, but I think that is, it's fine, we do all that, we can optimize costs, we do that, we can reduce costs, we can try to keep budgets in line, so, but in today's reality, we are far more than that. We are actually strategic partners, we help business, to grow, we help business, we shape them to wherever they want to be, We do that through cross-functional collaboration. We collaborate with all the departments. We do that. We collaborate with them through innovations. We assess risk, we manage risk. And we are involved. Finance team, finance leaders, we are involved in high-tech technology. We are actually very involved.
That's very interesting. You sound very, very grounded, and I like that. Yeah. I mean, if I had, just like you said, maybe I had a misconception. If I had that, with what you said now, it has changed.
Yes, please.
It has changed.
Do.
It has changed. I mean, of course, it happens because the way finance used to be back in the day, with the systems that we have in place now, everything has evolved. So even the way you were thinking as an accountant back then would have changed. You mentioned journals, you mentioned checks.
That's changed.
People don't do checks anymore. You can just do transfers. I mean, so yes, it has changed my misconception.
That's so nice.
Thank you for that. So now you've worked across audits, internal control, and that's an area that is often misunderstood. So how do you think about control, risk, and trust? How do you think about that?
Control is pivotal to organizational growth. It's like saying if there is no control, it means anybody can do anything.
Yes.
So controls are actually procedures that the management established, to ensure that the organization is being run in an orderly manner. So, and not just running it in an orderly manner, to have reliable records. And that is where we come in. You must have reliable records. Then the asset of the organization must be controlled, must be guided, must be preserved. So we have to set policies, procedures to ensure that all these things are done, that the organization is running in an efficient manner, Then when you talk about, what is the other point?
Risk and trust. Yes,
risk. Yeah, as a finance person, in any organization you find yourself or industry, you have to look at the risk. You have to assess risk. For example, for a trading organization, that they have inventory to talk about, to deal with. So inventory is a major risk. Then you have cash in quotes as a major risk. So you assess all the risks associated with this and be able to put on the rules, management, controls around it, So then trust. trust is actually something that you earn. So it's not enough to say, oh, I'm trustworthy. No,
your actions
it's your action, your doings, that will actually make somebody to assess. It's not even you that will say that you are trustworthy. It's another person to judge, So I think that's what I have to say.
Yes, you answered it very correctly.
Thank
you for that. And speaking about control, we have Bujeti. Bujeti basically gives you control over such things. You want to track your cash flow, inventory. With Bujeti, you basically see, you might not even be there. You might be outside of the country, but because you have access to Bujeti, you can actually see all of those things, and you know that, yes, people, just like you mentioned, risk and trust. With Bujeti, I think you can get the trust that you're looking for. So just to put that into context of what you said. So, speaking about the risk and trust, how do you get, because I believe it's even individuals that will give you the trust. You need to get trust from individuals. So how do you make sure people follow the systems that have been put in place?
You do that by making them co-initiators. So when you are looking at putting controls in place, you involve them from the beginning, So once they are part of the system, so they tend to, that we must succeed together. So they should be part of it. If you are setting controls in place, they must be part of it. Now, there should be consequence. Because controls without consequences actually will not go far. There should be consequences, no matter how little it may be. Let me give an example. In one of the companies I worked, we had, it's gone are the days that you talk about monthly cycle. Now it's daily insights. So we were to be submitting daily sales reports. And I called my team, I said, how do we meet up with this time? We close by 6. The branch accountants must submit reports. The auditors we have to review. Then it will now come to me to do the final review. How do we meet up? Please, I need suggestions. So we all come together. We all decided, okay, let the branch submit their so time. Then the audit staff will submit to me so time. So we all agreed together and say, Madam, if you spend like 30 minutes extra, remember you are our boss. You can actually spend more time, like 30 minutes. I said, okay, I'm fine. So that is exactly what we did, and everybody seems to comply. Then we just had a little penalty attached to it. So.
That's great. So speaking, you've mentioned how to manage such things. So with risk management, do you think that Nigerian companies basically, do you think that they handle that very well, or is it after something has gone wrong that they start to fix it? How do you think that such cases can be curbed?
I don't know, I may be wrong, but in my opinion, I think most Nigerian companies do not actually look at maybe preventive controls. We don't. We are looking at, it's something like damage control. That is what we are just good at, But I think that is where the finance leaders now come in, I know that for sure most of the finance leaders, in one way or the other, convince management, convince business owners the need for us to have, preventive controls. Because in their mindset, what has happened? Is there anything that has gone wrong? That is what they are looking for. So, but in real sense, it's actually better to look at, preventive controls. So, I think it's still a journey. It's a work in progress. I think we are still on it. The CEO, the business owners, they are not fully integrated into that preventive estimate. I think it's a work in progress.
Thank you for that, man. So if you had the power to redesign how most organizations think about compliance, what would you change?
compliance, there is this resistance. People feel like, it's this policeman, this policewoman, they tend to call the police, they don't actually like it. Oh my God, this auditor is coming, this policewoman, this, So I think what I can change, what I would like to be changed is, the mindset that let us see it as something that is actually to drive the organization, to the expected destination of that organization, which is sustainable growth, So when people see it from that perspective, I think people would now tend to actually align with compliance. So let them not see it as, it's a police, it's enforcement, it's this. So let them see it for that organization as their own contribution to support the organizational mission. So I think when we do that, when the staff have that mindset, it will be a better.
Thank you for that. So you started your career like before technology became accepted. So do you think since the inception of technology, has it improved like how you do your work normally?
Wow. Without doubt, everybody knows that technology has actually impacts, business operations positively in a very huge manner, I would say. Like it just make you to work smarter, makes you to work smarter, faster, without all the manual, rudiments, So technology actually has helped finance leaders to work smarter, in real time. You can actually, somebody will be in Port Harcourt and you are here seeing all the actions. In fact, it's just little things that you won't be seeing how they are working, moving around the offices. You're actually seeing everything that the person is doing. So it's so transparent. Technology makes it so transparent. You can work remotely. You can be here and you like. Somebody asked me one time in one of the companies, "Madam, how do you know all this? How do you know all this?" I said, "Well, I have a system. The only thing the system cannot do is how you are moving around. But whatever you do on the system, one can actually see it. So it's make our job very smart. So we can see, work remotely. I think it has been very, very helpful."
Thank you for that. So still on the technology question, do you think it has truly improved governance, or do you think it has now opened up new risks into the system?
Well, I think I would say yes and no, because it has actually improved governance. Transparency. Transparency is a very key point in governance. It makes you work smarter. We all know that. Then there is another aspect of it too. So this technology is also, we are the humans behind technology actually. So if the humans behind technology are not getting it right, then there could be a problem too. For example, in softwares. In some software, you could see that maybe some mappings, the developers could get some mappings wrong. So if they are not doing it right, it could also have negative impact. So the expected report, you won't be seeing the expected report. The finance team will just be battling. So and again, technology, you have this virus, antivirus, you are fighting this. They will say, okay, let me help you to fight. Meanwhile, they are introducing a virus. So we still have some battles. So it's a gradual plus and minus. I think that's what I have to say.
Thank you for that, ma'am. Okay, so AI is the thing in town now. Do you think that AI in finance is a partner, or do you think it's a threat?
Can I ask a question?
Okay, sure.
I think I'm free to ask you a question.
Yes.
What did you know about AI? When? What year?
Well, I mean, I would be honest.
Go straight,
I think it was about maybe 2012 2023, 2024, basically.
Okay. I think mine is just this year.
Oh.
Though maybe late last year I was hearing of it, but I didn't actually know much about AI, but from what I've seen with AI, it's an amazing, tool actually. Very, very amazing, wonderful, I'm actually in love with it. With AI. I'm actually in love with AI, There's a lot of things you can actually do, even in finance, So what we need is to integrate, to make AI our friend, For example, since I got to know of AI, apart from software, Excel, manipulation of Excel, working smarter, AI has added the step, So, like, there are some reports that you have, and when you're actually doing executive summary, you don't need to go so elaborate. For example, you have a schedule, figures, numbers, So, and what we do in executive summary, I can say 369,595,000, So you won't go all that. So I would say 369 points dash. So what I was doing, because there was no means of doing that, once I have that report, I will now be manually, putting it in millions. But now what AI has done for me is I will just copy down my schedule, put it on AI, and I will tell AI, please do it to the nearest million. And initially when I started, it did not give me in the report, put it in the, I said, no, put it in downloadable Excel format, So, and I got to know, it just gave me in downloadable Excel format, and I copy and paste. Within a twinkle of an eye, I've done that. And that would have taken me for maybe 1 hour, analyzing, putting it down, writing, So AI is actually very good. It assists finance team, and although before AI would do online research through Google and all that, so it makes research also faster, So we have to integrate, we have to work with AI to work smarter, I can have a presentation tomorrow, I will just be laughing, So before you know it, I would have been through with it, so it's actually very helpful.
I can see how much you love AI, even with the way you're talking. So I'll ask you just to say, is it Excel or AI? Which one do you prefer? Excel or AI?
You need to use the two, because it's after Excel that you'll be talking with AI.
Yes, AI.
AI cannot actually do the Excel work.
The Excel job,
And you have to also be smart to manipulate, to work faster with Excel. So it's when you are done with Excel that you give it to AI too. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Ma. That bit has been very impactful, very insightful. So now we're just going to go to just personal reflections, just easy questions. So just to make it fun, concise. You don't need to talk plenty, just straight to the point. Okay. So what's one ritual that keeps you grounded outside of work? What's something that you do that keeps you grounded outside of work?
In the morning, I wake up normally, I'll just oh, thank you, Jesus, for the gift of life,
Yes.
And if you see me going to work in the morning, you won't see me this way. You will have seen me tie my hair. I always tie my hair with a scarf before stepping out. And as I'm stepping out, it's prayer time. I start with prayer, See me on the way, I'm always praying, I can pray to the extent I enter a bus. It's until I finish my prayer. And I'm a Catholic, so I start with the rosary. So until I finish my prayers, if I had not gotten to my destination, I cannot have a nap, on the road. I sleep a lot in the bus, So
I mean, Lagos culture. Yes. So that's fine. So when was the last time you said no to something professionally, and it turned out to be the best decision you ever made?
I had this pressure, to approve. To approve an expense, and I said, no, please, I will need further I will need further quotes, to compare with that. This is high. It's hard time we get, inputs, so, and like, madam, you are wasting time. I say, please calm down, so let's get it right. Let's try and, cut costs, cost optimization, and all that. And everybody was like, oh, you're wasting. I said, no, I won't waste time. So I quickly do that. And it actually happened that the cost saving was so much. And what now happened? The other one that gave us a quote now had to agree, because I gave that condition. I said that we can only give you this job if you are accepting this quote, if you want to bring down yours. And that was exactly what happened. So it actually gave me a kind of joy.
I can see that you're very, very. Your T's must be dotted, your I's must be dotted.
Really?
Well, that's a good culture in what you're doing.
All right, thank you.
So what's one leadership decision that you still think about today that also still makes you smile when you think about it?
I think that decision was when I was working on, there was this, will I say false alarm? There was this false alarm, that one IT colleague came to the head office and the whole office was turned upside down, so, and I said, my manager now called me and I said, so let us not just go buy this idea. Let's investigate. Let's carry out an investigation. So he gave me the assignment to carry out that investigation. And at the end, I found that it was just a false alarm. So, and thank God that he listened to me. So I said, no, let's not go with the crowd. Let's actually sit down and investigate. So that is one of them. Then another decision, I think. That will make me proud, even though it's previous company I worked with, was when I saw them just reporting swap. Now, if you buy this laptop, they can give you a bigger laptop, all in the name of error. Somebody can buy something of 1 million and is giving something of 3 million, all in the name of error. And I said, oh no, we can't do this. We must be doing what we call financial implication of the swap, and that by that decision, if we cannot recover, or maybe we cannot actually get the customers to pay the money, the responsible staff will pay. So, and that decision is something that if I remember, yes, I will just be happy.
Interesting. So, this is the last question. So, has your definition of success over the years changed?
Well, I would say yes. As a young accountant, I was looking at success as, be able to prepare your financials, meeting up with reports and all that. So, but I think now we'll be looking at what impact have you made? Who can actually look at you and say, madam, you touched my life. So what legacy? It's actually about legacy now. It's not you meeting report, it's not a legacy. So it's the legacy you are leaving behind. So the people you've been able to impart knowledge, and that is something that I actually like sharing. I share ideas, conduct training so that people can just be as good, if better off than I, So I think it's an impact. How impactful have you been?
Thank you. So thank you very much, Ma, for joining us today. We've come to the end of this, and it's been a very interesting conversation talking about your journey from where you started and where you've gotten to now. So thank you. It's conversations like this that also remind us, like you said, finance is not just about crunching numbers. It's more than that. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you everyone for joining us on another exciting and insightful episode of CFO to CFO. And if you're looking to modernize your finance operations, gain control, and have full insight to your finance systems, Bujeti is your go-to. So check Bujeti out. Until next time, join us on CFO to CFO podcast. But make sure you subscribe, share, like, and drop your comments. And once again, if there's any topic you'd like us to talk about, please share and we'll be sure to visit it and discuss it. Thank you once again, Ma, for joining us. It's been a very interesting conversation. Thank you. And we look forward to having you once again on the show.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
So, see you next time. Bye. Hello, welcome to another episode of the CFO Podcast.